Okay, hi everyone. So today we are going to look at some techniques that we need in order to tackle questions involving ratios. So usually the techniques that we need, right? So techniques that we need, okay, are going to be okay. So we need to look for the total, right? So we may need to look for the total and we will compare the total and we will look at some changes and so on. Then the second technique would be to look for the same quantity, right? Or to see which one is the same, right? And at the same time to also look for different quantities and to see like the difference between them will be how many units, and we'll try to match this as we go. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the example. With these two techniques in mind, let's take a look at some of the examples that we have over here. I think we have two questions. The first question over here is in practice now 5, page 41, and we have over here the ratio of number of fiction books to the number of non-fiction books in the library is 5 to 2. If there are 1 4 to 1 fiction and non-fiction books all together, right? So this is a very crucial thing, right? If there are, this statement is a very crucial thing. 1,421 books altogether. How many more fiction books than non-fiction books are there in the library? Okay, so let's take a look at this ratio over here. Right, so we can start off with fiction, right? It is to non-fiction. And let's study the ratio that we have. The number of fiction books is 5 parts. The non-fiction books are 2 parts. Now, and the highlighted sentence above tells us that we will need to look at the total number of books. So over here, we will need to look for the total. So the total will give us actually 7 parts. Alright? And what are we supposed to look for? We are supposed to look for how many more fiction books than non-fiction books are there. So this also signals to us that we are going to look at the difference between the two genre of books. So between 5 parts and 2 parts, the difference is actually looking for 3 parts. Okay, so with this in mind, so let us link our quantities to the ratio. So 1,421 fiction and non-fiction books all together means that the total, right, the total over here would be 7 parts or 7 units, and 7 parts would have 1,421. Okay, and we are looking for the difference. Let's take a look at the difference. So the difference is actually 3 parts or 3 units. Alright, so we will take 1,421. Alright, we're going to divide by 7 to make it 1 unit, and we'll multiply by 3 to make it 3 units. So over here we will have 609 books. So there are 609 more fiction books than non-fiction books over here. Okay, so recap. Tackling ratio questions, we may encounter questions involving us to look for the total and the difference. Yeah. Okay, now let's take a look at the second question, where we have Cheryl and Shufen each having a sum of money. So the ratio of the amount of money Cheryl has to that of Shufen is 3 to 5. Okay, so then after Shufen gave $150 to Cheryl, the ratio of the amount of the money Cheryl has to of that of Shufen becomes 7 to 9. Okay, so find the sum of money that Cheryl had initially. Okay, so over here we are looking at the before and after question. So usually for before and after question, we'll normally look at any differences. We'll try to look for similarities, like the same amount of units, and at the same time we'll look for the differences as well. So let's take a look at the before. Let's model the thing before, and let's model the thing after as well. Right? So before, we have Cheryl and Shufen. Alright, Cheryl and Shufen sharing 3 to 5 units. Okay, and after we have Cheryl and Shufen, right, sharing 7 to 9 units. Okay, so the first thing that we need to look at is the 7 to 9 units, and the before 3 to 5 units. Okay, so before we have a total of 8 parts, after we have a total of 16 parts. Do you see that? Okay, um, so the thing is that before and after, we have to realize that as Cheryl gave money to Shufen, the total amount of money that Cheryl and Shufen both have will remain the same. Okay, so let's look for the total parts as well. So let us include this total part over here. Let us include this total part over here. So the total would be 8 units for before, and the total would be 16 units after. Okay, and knowing that the total amount of money before and after are the same, it's not like the total amount of money is lost. It's just that there's a transfer of money. Okay, so with this over here, let us make the total the same. So I'm gonna move this over here to be my reference, and I'm gonna make the before to match the after. So before, the total that I should get is actually 16. Okay, so what do I get to what do I multiply to get 16 is 8 parts times 2 to get 16. I have my 5 parts times 2 to give me 10, and I have 3 parts times 2 to give me 6. Okay, so now we can see that actually, we can see that this one over here, right, this so Shufen gave money to Cheryl, so Shufen will have less money after, and Cheryl will have more money after. You see this? Okay, so what is the transfer in the units? The transfer in the unit is just 1 unit. So Shufen transfer 1 unit to Cheryl. Cheryl receives 1 unit from Shufen. So with this one over here, we can look at the transfer. The transfer is 1 unit, and 1 unit is actually $150, as you can see in the question over here. Shufen gives $150 to Cheryl. So over here, we are looking at the sum of money that Cheryl had initially. So Cheryl's initial amount, okay, Cheryl initial amount is actually 6 units. Do you see this? Because we are looking at this set of ratio, so we should follow 6 units over here. So we are looking at 6 units. So it will be $150, right? $150 divided by 1 times 6 units. So this will give us $900. So Cheryl would have $900 initially. Okay, so to recap on what's going on, so a few techniques that we can use to solve ratio problems, especially for word problems, is to look at total, look at difference, okay? And let's say if you have a before and a after, we'll normally try to look for the quantity that does not change before and after. So for this case, for this Cheryl and Shufen case over here, the total amount of units, the total amount of money before and after is the same. So the strategy is to make the total parts the same. We compare the total parts and we look for the changes between Cheryl and Shufen. Okay, so this ends our first video for the day.